Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted as always to be joined by Danny. We are looking forward to some boxing in Japan on Monday, the 18th of September. Some light flyweight action to kind of get us started off in the week. Kenshiro Teraji faces the experienced Hekkie Budler for the WBA and WBC light flyweight titles. Danny, not a division we're too familiar with in this country. We kind of have one of the best flyweights in the world in Sonny Edwards, but in terms of a light flyweight, not too much going on in the UK. But not expecting you to kind of be an expert and be able to tell us everything we need to know about this fight. But give me your initial thoughts.
Yeah, as you say, not a division I'm overly well versed in, although I've watched Teraji's last couple of fights and I think he's a really impressive fighter. I think he's probably getting in close to your top 10 pound for pound at this stage. I remember the Kayaguchi fight was the first fight I'd ever watched them, and it was for the Ring magazine belt. And if I remember right, Kayaguchi was a favourite for that. He was the sort of defending champion, and Teraji gave him a one-sided beatdown before stopping him, and then sort of went off my radar for a while. And then I was on Twitter, as I often am, and seen like one of like the betting accounts I followed posting that there had been a huge move on that Alaskawaga. He went in from 12-1 to 4-1 pre-fight, and he's fancied as a pretty good fighter. And again, watchable fight, but Teraji sort of put on a bit of a clinic before stopping him again. So Teraji's on a bit of a roll at the minute. I think there's been talk of him going up to flyweight as well. So looking forward to seeing him back.
Yeah, no, we'll see what happens. Teraji, won his last three fights by stoppage. Has that one loss on his record to Yabuki that he's avenged, and obviously that Kayaguchi, was probably maybe his most high profile win possibly that he's had. Maybe that's just from kind of where we are, and his last two opponents have also been undefeated as well. Hekkie Budler, to be honest, wasn't sure he was still fighting. He's been around for a long time. 39 fights in, 35 years old. You don't get many 35-year-old light flyweights, I would imagine. Also has faced Kayaguchi in the past, lost via stoppage in the 10th round. I think I had a quick look at the odds. Danny, and Teraji's a very, very strong favorite in this fight. As you said, he's on a bit of a roll, and this fight is happening in Japan, his home country. And Hekkie Budler, you'd think we would have seen the best of him. From what you've seen, are you looking at another Teraji win here?
It'd be hard to get past, wouldn't it? As you say, 35 is exceptionally old for light flyweight. I think even 31 Teraji is you're sort of coming towards what you would think is the sort of closing part of your career, but 35, and you said close to 40 fights. So you would have to make Teraji a pretty significant favorite in Japan as well. It's hard to see past another win for him here from where I'm looking at it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's an interesting it's an interesting one in terms of what's going to happen in this fight, in terms of how competitive is it going to be? Teraji's seat look. I think Teraji looks like he is the number one light flyweight in the world right now. One point I want to make is Teraji himself is 31, so he's not a young light flyweight. He's been at that weight his entire career, made his debut back in 2014. I know it's a tough question, Danny, because as we're admitting, we're not experts in these guys, but do you think this, looking at him, this could be his final fight at light flyweight?
I suppose it depends what sort of assurances he has of securing big fights going up where the biggest money is. I know you're not going to be talking a £10 million payday, whatever he does, but there's still, I would imagine, pretty big differences in what you can earn in a unification at light flyweight compared to some of the names up at flyweight, which are a lot bigger. Although how likely he is to get a big fight at flyweight remains to be seen, given the fact a lot of flyweights can't get big fights at flyweights. A lot of the champions don't seem to be particularly willing to take big fights. So depends on the lay of the land. Unfortunately for him, most of the Japanese names are sort of up at Superfly at the minute, and I know it's only, what would it be, half a stone, but at that weight, that's pretty significant. Like that's tenth of your body weight.
Yeah.
Almost. So I don't know, mate. To be honest, I would say he would be looking towards there in an ideal world, but whether the big fights can be made, I'm not sure.
Yeah, you mentioned the flyweight division there. Obviously, you've got this big fight between Sonny Edwards and Jesse Bam Bam Rodriguez in December. Julio Cesar Martinez is the WBC champion still at flyweight. Teraji is the WBC champion at light flyweight. Not really sure what's happening with Martinez, to be honest. He seems like he's going through a strange down period in his career. Hope to see him back in the ring soon. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I think from what I can see, I don't think Teraji surely can't be at light flyweight for too much longer. But maybe he's in a position where he's only going to move up in weight for a big fight for a world title immediately at flyweight, and that might not be easy to do. Final question for me, Danny. I think I quite like these Japanese cards that aren't necessarily on a Saturday night at 11 p.m, which can be frustrating for all of us. Obviously, that big Inoue versus Fulton fight a couple months ago, I think. So was it 1 p.m. UK time it started, and it's something a bit different for UK fans. This is on a Monday. I imagine it'll be on around the same time of day. My question is, Inoue is obviously the number one Japanese fighter at the world in the world now. He's arguably the best fighter in the world, or at least top three in the world, around kind of like the Terence Crawfords and other top fighters as well. Do you think there's room for another Japanese name to break and for casual kind of boxing fans to be aware of them? Do you think kind of the market's big enough for that? Because it feels like Inoue's fight against Fulton for me was his breakthrough fight to casual fans. A lot of casual fans and general sports fans are more aware of Inoue now. Do you think someone like Teraji can do that and be anywhere alongside Inoue on that spectrum, or not so much?
It's difficult, difficult. You think how long it's taken Inoue and how many world titles and how many different weight classes, and don't get me wrong, there are some casual boxing fans or combat sports fans or sports fans who mention it, but it's still just drips and drabs. So I would say it's a very big ask, to be honest. In terms of the casual fan over here, I'm sure there's still scope for him to become a big star in Japan. They love their combat sports. There's a few sort of rising off the back of an success, but I think in terms of worldwide recognition, it's pretty difficult, especially if he was 24 and at the fledgling stages of his career, and potentially, but at 31, I can't see it, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's going to be tricky. We'll see what happens. Kenshiro Teraji against Hekkie Budler. We're expecting Teraji to win this fight, and then who knows if he'll go for another unification fight like flyweight, try and find that big fight at flyweight. We will see. Danny, thank you very much for your time. We'll speak to you again soon.
No worries, mate.